All right, today we're going to tackle a huge question, and we'll be pulling from some of the most resilient people in history to figure it out.
I mean, what is it? What allows some people to rise from total devastation when their life is just shattered? How do they not just survive, but actually rebuild something new from the ashes? When everything you know is gone, where do you even start?
So our main guide through this is an endurance athlete named Colin O'Brady. And for him, it all started with fire. He was this young athlete, his whole future ahead of him, and then a horrific fire in Thailand. We're talking severe burns. Doctors told him he might never walk right again. I mean, that's a moment of absolute devastation, right? The kind of thing that could just define the rest of your life. But for him, it didn't.
So to really get how this rebuilding process works, we're going to walk through 4 key stages. We'll start in the wreckage itself, then look at how you find a lifeline, dive into all the unseen work that goes on behind the scenes, and finally, we'll uncover the inner engine that makes it all possible.
Okay, let's start at the hardest place imaginable, the moment life just breaks. We're not talking about the comeback story yet or the lessons learned. No, we're talking about that raw, confusing, what the heck just happened aftermath.
And this brings us to a really powerful idea from Viktor Frankl, the Holocaust survivor. He wrote about his experience in Auschwitz, and he said something profound. He argued that the worst kind of suffering isn't the physical pain. It's the feeling that it's all for nothing, that it's empty. It's the battle against meaninglessness that's the real fight.
You see, in that first moment, the whole battle is inside your own head. For Colin O'Brady, it was despair. That voice telling him, this is it, you're broken now. For Aaron Ralston, the guy pinned by a boulder, it was helplessness, that urge to just give up and shut down. For Malala Yousafzai, it was the danger of silence, of letting that horrific act of violence rewrite her entire story. See? The real fight isn't against what happened, it's against the story that what happened tries to tell you about who you are. And this is such a critical distinction. O'Brady figured out that pain, as awful as it is really just about right now. But fear's the real enemy, because fear takes today's pain and stretches it out into forever. It's that little whisper in your ear that says, what if this never ends? That's the voice you have to fight first.
So how do you actually fight that voice? Well, that brings us to stage 2. You have to find a lifeline. And interestingly enough, that lifeline often looks like one single, totally impossible goal.
Now, here's the key. The goal isn't really about winning or even achieving the thing itself. Its main purpose is to give your pain a job to do. Think about it. Without a direction, suffering just spreads out and infects everything. But a goal, it takes all that scattered energy, the pain, the fear, the effort, and it funnels it, pointing it all in one single direction.
I mean, just think about this. Colin O'Brady could barely walk, and the goal he set for himself from his hospital bed was a triathlon. It's completely absurd, right? It makes no sense. But that's exactly why it worked. It shattered the logic of his situation. Suddenly, all that excruciating physical therapy wasn't just pain. It had a purpose. It became part of a path forward, not just a dead end.
And this lines up with a really challenging idea from David Goggins. He says that while comfort and sympathy feel good, they don't actually demand anything from you. But an impossible goal? Whoa, that cuts right through any self-pity. It calls you out, it forces you to become someone new. It's a lifeline, not a soft cushion to land on.
Okay, so you've got your goal. Awesome. But now comes the really hard part. The long, quiet, totally unglamorous middle. This is stage 3, the unseen daily work.
We always see the finished product, right? The incredible comeback, the big headline. But what does that journey actually look like from the inside, day in and day out?
Yeah, what the public sees is the epic moment, the summit, the medal, the headline. But if you talk to people like Michael Phelps or Alex Honnold, they'll tell you the private reality is, well, it's kind of boring. It's routine, it's monotony, it's endless repetition. It's the thousands of small, quiet choices that nobody ever sees. Greatness isn't born from some flash of inspiration. It's built in the daily, unsexy grind.
So how on earth do you get through that? You shrink your focus. You have to. Thinking about the entire mountain is just overwhelming. It'll crush you. But can your mind handle just one more step? Yes. And then another one. And this isn't some little mind trick. It's a profound act of staying sane. It's what keeps you moving when the finish line feels like it's a million miles away. And all of this brings us to the deepest layer of all, the engine that powers everything we've talked about, Stage 4, mindset.
And listen, when we say mindset, we're not just talking about positive thinking cliches. This is way deeper. Think about Nelson Mandela, imprisoned for decades. For him, mindset was a form of inward leadership. It's this powerful internal decision that says, okay, I might be in a cell, I might be in pain, but I refuse to let this situation dictate the final shape of my soul.
So how do you actually do that? Well, first, you have to recognize that the negative story playing in your head is just that. It's a story, it's not reality. Then you have to interrupt that pattern. You take one small, tiny action that proves the story wrong. And then you just keep doing it. You practice that inner refusal every single day, building a new reality for yourself, one choice at a time.
This quote from Mandela just says it all, doesn't it? This is the absolute core of a resilient mindset. It's this quiet, daily decision you make that says, this pain, this setback, this limitation, it's real, I'm not denying that, but it's not permanent. It does not get the final word on who I am.
All right, let's pull all this together. After going on this journey from total devastation and back, what's the big takeaway here?
Well, the path to building a new future really comes down to 4 things. First, you refuse to let the wound become your identity. Second, you give your pain a job by setting a bold goal. Third, you embrace the unseen, daily work that slowly builds a new you. And finally, you develop a mindset that keeps the door to possibility open, even when things look bleak.
And what does all this really point to? I think the deepest lesson is this. The human being is so often greater than the wound. Yeah, we're not untouched by what happens to us, but we can be bigger than it. A setback can change your life forever, sure, but it doesn't get to write the final chapter.
And that leaves us with one last question for you to think about. The old life you had, the one you planned for. It might be gone, forever. But what remains? As long as there's still courage, still discipline, still a glimmer of possibility, what new life is just waiting for you to build it?